Howdy y'all, and welcome back to Cup of Cheer. So if you've been following my channel for a while, you've probably heard me talk about some of my favorite characters of Christmas. Some of which come straight from the birth story of Christ, and others I've gotten from Christmas carols, like the Little Drummer Boy and Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Today I want to talk to you about another character of Christmas that's been pretty important to me over the last few years. And it might not be the one you think, or for the reason you would think. So who am I talking about? None other than Ebenezer Scrooge. That's right, Charles Dickens' Ebenezer Scrooge from the story The Christmas Carol. So why is he important to me? Well, actually, it has more to do with his name than anything Charles Dickens did about him. You see, a few years back, I was listening to the hymn, "Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing." I was at church and it happened to come on the screen, and I saw the line, "Here I raise my Ebenezer." And now, I've listened to that song many times in my youth, and that line never really resonated with me somehow. I never noticed it before. And suddenly I did, and I couldn't get it out of my head. The question, what is an Ebenezer, if not Charles Dickens' Ebenezer Scrooge? So I wrote it down in my notes to look it up later. And I looked it up and I asked some questions to people that I know a lot about literature and history, and I asked. And it turns out that basically, to make a very long historical story really condensed, Ebenezer comes from a story in 1 Samuel, which I highly encourage you to look up on your own and really look at the story. And it actually represents a stone or a specific place where God brought these people to. And it's a symbol to remind them of how far God brought them and the promises that he was able to fulfill. And it's kind of wild when you look at that and then you look at the Christmas Carol that Charles Dickens wrote. And spoiler alert, there's a big change from the beginning to the end. Now, no, God's promises aren't really represented in there. Maybe they are in ways that I don't completely comprehend, but not overtly. But you do see a big change from the beginning to the end. And that really kind of struck me. And I still wonder, although I have tried to research this and have not been able to find an answer, whether Charles Dickens was aware of the historical significance of the name Ebenezer or not. Maybe he just heard it somewhere and thought it was a really great name to use in this story. Maybe at that time it was kind of a crotchety name. I don't know. But I find it really interesting, and it has really changed kind of the way that I watch or read The Christmas Carol. But more importantly, there have been a lot of things that have happened in my life over the last few years. And about 6 years ago, for those of you who may not know, I had a fairly significant fall and injured my neck, and I still have a herniation in there that greatly affects my life. And one of the things that stole from me for quite some time was the ability to drive. And this last summer, within this year, I drove the freeway for the first time ever. And I told one of my dear friends about this and how I was kind of scared to tell anyone and uneasy about whether or not I'd be able to ever do that again. And they encouraged me to find a way to remember that moment. So, I asked my mom if she could get me this keychain. What is it? Why is it important to me? It's the Paralympics mascot. The Paralympics were actually being played at the time that I did my first drive on the freeway. And this was my way to remember how significant that was in my life. I don't remember the Paralympics mascot's name because it's complicated name for me to remember. But when I look at this, if I'm feeling anxious about driving, oftentimes, though not always, but oftentimes it really helps me to remember how far God has brought me, even in the last 5 years, that I never thought I'd ever be able to drive a freeway again. And here I am, I'm driving a freeway again. I still have my limits, but I am driving a freeway again. And at the same time, my mom was feeling extra generous and also got me this cutie. This is the Olympics mascot from the same time frame. His name is Bing Dwen Dwen. I remember that because Bing Crosby, and it's cute. And honestly, how can you not feel a little bit happy when you walk in to your living room or your bedroom and you see this guy sitting there on your couch or your bed just waving hi with a little heart? And it just reminds me of that time and how much God was doing in our lives. And so to me, these are my Ebenezers, at least for this year, that remind me how much God has brought us through, even when in those moments it may not have completely felt that way. I wanted to do this video not to give you a history lesson, not to try and tell you exactly everything that went down with the name of Ebenezer and how Dickens wrote the Christmas Carol, because I don't know. I wish I did, but I don't. I had always wished that I could have actually interviewed somebody who knew more about that and done a great video for you, more historical, but I haven't had that chance yet. But this year it's meant so much to me, especially right now when there's a lot of chaos going on and I come into my room and I see this. Or I have to keep driving back and forth and I'm able to see this little guy. Maybe you need an Ebenezer in your life. Maybe it's as simple as an ornament, or I don't even know what. Maybe another stuffed animal or a keychain. Maybe it's just a rock from a place that was really significant. I mean, that's what the Ebenezer was. I don't know. But if you're feeling that need to remember God's promises in your life or how far He's brought you, I highly encourage you to do it. Find your Ebenezer, your reminder of what God is doing in your life. Thank you for watching this far. I pray that you can continue to see God's blessings in your Christmas. From me and mine, to you and yours, a very Merry Christmas and a cup of good cheer. Oh, real quick, I want to say a big shout out to my llama buddy and thank her again for the encouragement to do these things. I love you. Bye. Cup of good cheer, y'all.